I'm Carolyn Holzman, and this is Confessions of an SEO. Don't worry, you've come across the least SEO podcast on the planet. There are no interviews, no fake FOMO, just really a place to relax and feel okay that you're an SEO. And I promise today will not be a rant. Plus, I do hope in some way, if you're a business owner listening, you'll hear something that will help you want to improve the relationship you may have between your SEO and your SEO agency so you can stop micromanaging based on Search Console data. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 11 of Confessions of an SEO. What a funny week it's been. And when I say funny, I mean odd. Google's in a tear during this update with manual penalties. Even poor John Mueller, or John Mew, got the short end of the stick for a while. His site was apparently hit with a full de-index penalty, but now he's back. So I guess it's good to have friends in high Google places. So if you're curious I'm even talking about, what does this site do? Last year, I did a deep dive into it. Season 3, Episode 24, and it's called WWJD. Now, it's probably not what you're thinking, because I meant it to mean, what would John do? Like, what would John do if he had to actually make a living through this site? So I'll put the link in the description. Or if you're like me and you always have a screen open, you can just Google WWJD, Confessions of an SEO. I haven't talked about my testing lately. Mostly the indexation conversations I've been reserving for the paid group. So if you're looking to get that kind of fresh, hot Google data from the front lines, you can join me at Crawl or No Crawl on Substack. You can Google it. You'll find it. It's a monthly subscription of $18 a month for 5 to 7 reports per week that will, they're only available to paid members. So there are free accounts. They know the reports are going out, and I mention occasionally, things that are generally known, but the only paid accounts get the data, which is the details and the drama. And those that sign up for a full year will get 2 months free. So if you really want to know the latest in the testing of the indexation project, you need to check that out. What else am I doing? I'm working on an article that I believe will sort of blow the lid off the helpful content system and what it targets. That's all. Got the final edited pre-press version going through. I'm going through all the little bits of everything. I'm kind of lucky, I think, to have gotten a new update coming through before it actually gets published. Definitely, as I see it, what now is, since they're rolling the helpful content into the core update, it sort of corroborates my theory. So I'm not going to get into the details until the article is public, but it's a theory that I've been poking at for now almost a year. Don't mean for this to be too much of a tease, but I think it will be a relief to our community to know what's being targeted so we can focus on what to do to make our sites more seaworthy and long-lasting. Now, next up on the testing, just to let you know, there's some things that on the surface, probably when I do them, they're going to sound maybe a little juvenile. But I'll be looking at specific content formats. Are they going to get indexed? There's a lot, I think, that is assumed in our industry. Someone mentioned on Facebook this week in response to someone who said that, there's precious little data backing up many of the things in our industry. That a lot of people, instead of recognizing that fact, they just sort of present it as, this is factual. And so the truest of explanations I read was the funniest content ever, because someone wrote and said, to be fair, a lot of our industry is in a cult. Amen, brother. So expect that the testing is going to be public and you will get it all. Now, before I start this week's topic, if you've been listening the last few weeks, you've heard me say that some episodes are being sponsored by Magic Mind. And here's another one. Magic Mind, if you haven't heard of it before, has a terrific sort of drinkable what they call productivity shots. And they use science-backed ingredients with some slow-release caffeine. So it's really described best as like an energy shot that doesn't make you feel jittery. And if you're wondering, yes, I drink them almost every day. Truthfully, I've gotten so productive, I can even forget to take them. And just know there's a 100% money-back guarantee, no questions asked. You can check it out on magicmind.com/confessions. And if you like what you see, I have a coupon code for you, and that is Confessions20, and it'll save you some money. All right. So for the past 3 weeks, a colleague and I have been breaking down an article that went viral just over 3 weeks ago. Now, if you've missed it, it's super easy to catch up on. I've got a playlist in the description, or you can just go to Google and search for HouseFresh video series. Now, that's HouseFresh is one word, not two, and you'll see enough to get started. Of course, it is a cautionary tale. And it would be and appears to be so easy for some to point at this publisher and kind of maybe feel a little self-righteous and think that, well, that would never be you, right? Oh, how easily we forget. Now, in last week's episode, I was on a tear because the thing here, what I really personally would like everyone to see it as an exercise in illustrating that, to quote, I guess this is Hemingway, right? Do not wonder for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. What does that mean? Okay, Google makes the rules, Google changes the rules. And the trick is knowing what they do and which knob they turn. Now, last week's episode, I called it Go Fish Yourself. Now, that's, in case you didn't know, Confessions is also on Amazon Music. So I'll post a link to the episode over there. But I think there are a lot of people who will watch this week's video and sort of feel like, well, that's not what I do. And, oh, sucks to be them. But the thing is that depending on when you got into SEO, you can kind of see that there are patterns. There are patterns to, I think it was first explained to me, when I got in, there were people who had been in for a while, and they would see things happen and updates would happen and most of us would freak out. And then they would be saying things like, don't worry, Google always swings back and forth. What do they swing back and forth between? Well, it's the importance between backlinks and content on page. And so it does seemingly happen that way. Having been in it now for 15 years? I think that's right. It's hard to know. But anyway, I just want to say that, the way things were done previously, historically, that worked, a lot of people believe that it's always going to work. And that brings us back to Google makes the rules, Google changes the rules. So, one thing just to remember, problems with the site that gets hit repeatedly by updates, and nobody changes anything, right? They may not know what to fix. It almost seems like the harm caused by each update is somehow compounded on the other. Like the time to recover is longer, or that wasn't the only issue on that site. And speaking of which, like if you watch that video, we're not saying that's the only issue that site has. It was just the one we chose to chase down because they had talked about it in the article. Now, there's going to be one more video. Now, these videos I'm doing with Marie Isais, and I think sometimes Marie is way too much like me in what she thinks to take on, and she has a point. So, like I said, there's in this last video, it's going to be a sort of response, that there are folks out there that if you don't show them at the drop of a hat 99 other instances on the same domain, mind you, they can sometimes dismiss the data simply by saying, oh, that you were just lucky. That's a lucky shot that you found it. But it might have only been that one keyword. And because of that it might have been that other keyword, they don't believe it's a large enough issue that would answer how they lost almost 50% of their traffic visibility. So here's why I believe what makes the helpful content portion of this analysis so slippery. What we do know is when you are rewarded or punished by the helpful content, it's a site-wide signal, a domain signal. So now on the downside of it, which is usually where most people, if you start making more money, you're going to keep your mouth shut. If you start losing money, you're probably going to talk about it a little bit. And so when that happens, if you do get, if you lose visibility, that signal includes content that was minding its own business. It may have been happily sitting away at position 1, and then for some reason it will suddenly disappear. It's kind of like, remember in class, when a class was punished as a whole for the behavior of someone who couldn't stop talking, it's that peer pressure discipline. But kind of like, let's go back to the helpful content thing. It's not really that one group of URLs brought this site to its knees. It was layering over. This was something that they did repeatedly, kind of like wallpaper on top of other wallpaper, until really the only solution was for this group to either 301 pages to other relevant pages or simply remove the content. So when those pages started disappearing like ghosts, of course, it makes sense to think that the pages that disappeared had to be faulty. And I take you back to that thing about the helpful content system, is that it's a site-wide signal. It's not just the one page that earns the, I'm going to use the word penalty, even though it's not officially a penalty signal. But if you've got, it sure feels like it, right? But if the helpful content system is a site-wide system, let me just see if this helps. Okay. If you've ever seen the movie called Jack Reacher, it's the one with Tom Cruise and Rosamund Pike. Robert Duvall's in it too. Now, it's an intriguing movie if you can get past the sniper scene. But it's the sniper scene that I'm going to reference here. And basically, the premise of the story is it's about a former Army sniper who is accused of what appears to be random shooting of 5 people in Pittsburgh. Now, the thing is, there was a target out of those 5 people. But the fact that it included 4 others threw the police investigation off for a long time until Jack Reacher got in there. Now, I say all that to illustrate. If helpful content does not reward the lack, wait a minute. No, wait, let me, it's, see how slippery it is? All right. So if the helpful content does not reward a site when it discovers too much unhelpful content, if that's true, then let's say on a site of 10 pages, there could be 5 pages that the helpful content targeted, but only one of them actually earned that penalty. That's in air quotes. Potentially, those other 4 pages were innocent bystanders and perhaps deserved on their own right to be included. But the helpful content system took the knees right out from underneath them. So if that is the case, and that is possible, and that is what we're told, and I believe that's what we're seeing, how could you identify the guilty page? the original guilty page, or one might say, the source of the unhelpful content. Now, all I can say is that I am hot on the trail to figure out what it looks like so that the time, which is really the cost, right, of identifying the pages that earn the demotion for the rest of the site, that's kind of where my attention is going. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great when people post about how wonderful their sites are doing in this current update. It's just that looking at those sites to find out how they're doing it is not going to tell you, per se, what you have to do to get yours back in the game. In the article, HouseFresh definitely sees themselves as David in a sea of Goliaths, like Better Homes and Gardens and the New York Times, and they'll tell you all about it if you read the article. I think my irresistible bend is and always has been to do my part to look out for the Davids out there. It's why I started my CD manufacturing studio for unsigned music and film artists. And it's why I started providing SEO services to independent local businesses who had big dreams, but really not the time or the inclination to learn what to do and how to market themselves in Google. And I have to admit that it's why now I'm so on the trail in a forensic way on what specific rules did Google change and how to help as many site owners as I can. It's not altruistic. What I do is a business. But I do know why I'm doing it, and I do know who it's for. Well, that's it for this week. To stay up on the latest video release on the HouseFresh video series response, get on the notification list. It's called Search-Driven Insights on Substack. So if you're Googling it, just use those words, Search-Driven Insights on Substack. You'll find it. Or you can just, if your memory is good, search-driven, not search drive, search-driven-insights.substack.com. All right. I'll put a link in here. So you put in your best email, you'll get notified when the next video expose comes out that Marie Isaias and I put together. Thank you for being a listener. If there's any topics you'd like me to cover in April, you can simply use the text line, and it's 512-222-3132, and just type in your topic idea. Well, thanks again, and until next week, I'll see you in the SERPs.